Today we will discuss about deploying new strategies for a data loss prevention solution. I published an article a decade ago that helped a few people in deploying their DLP solution. Now that time has changed, I have learned some new techniques and technologies have changed. So I'm doing a remake of this. The difference is this is now in a videos form. All right. So moving on quickly, it's not a chicken and egg question. Should we have a policy first, or should we identify the data first? So, of course, first the organizations have their data protection policy, and then they go and identify what kind of data they need to store and secure. So, obviously, it's not that difficult. However, if there is a time constraint, it becomes really challenging what to do first, because if you create a policy, if you get it approved, and there are some basic details associated to it, it takes a lot of time. So if you have gray structure and basic understanding of what the policy will look like, you can start identifying the data in parallel. That also depends if you have dedicated resources and time for that. So data classification solution is most of the time not part of the DLP solution, but it helps a lot. Um, it can help DLP solution by adding the tags onto the document. So DLP do not have to look into the document, examine the content, and make a decision based on the DLP policies. Instead, data classification can be configured to have similar set of policies, and they scan all the data at rest and sometimes data in use. And based on that, they can create a policy, apply a tag to the document, and that tag will be helpful for the DLP to make its decision when this data is being transmitted outside the organization. How secure or foolproof is data classification solution? Just like any other solutions, it also has its own benefits and demerits. But most of the time, data classification solution works well. We will talk about how to configure data classification solution as well in this session. So, most importantly, we should have sensitivity levels uh, understood and properly defined. Once we know about the sensitivity levels, we can create classification tags or classification labels based on those sensitivity levels. For instance, if we have to keep some kind of data for the public record, or maybe for the internal use, or in some cases, we have intellectual property data that is tagged as sensitive information. Maybe we have business secrets, or our formulas or blueprint diagrams for the upcoming products. So all of these documents, all of this data should be tagged properly. And most importantly, before tagging by the data classification solution, this data should be identified based upon their nature and based on the type of usage, so there is no ambiguity down the line. So DLP deployment process that starts with information gathering. Information for information gathering and for DLP implementation both. I have categorized based on my experience different departments into different aliases, I would say. So there is always a low hanging fruits department, where you can easily implement the DLP solution, you can easily get the information. There is always a top secret data keeper department, that is where you have all the basic information that is important for the existence and progress of the organization, and it should be kept really secret. And there is always a department that resists change. You need to get through all of these troubles. There are, in the end, some good Samaritans. Just like everywhere else, these kind of people are found in the organizations as well in abundance. If good Samaritans are in the low hanging fruits department, this is your win. If top secret data keepers are change resistant, it is not your loss, because they are concerned about the well being of the organization, and they are concerned about the safety. It is very important to properly understand their requirements, create policies, test rigorously, and try to incorporate this department as much in the process as possible. And to give example, you have low hanging fruits department and good Samaritans department. That will be really helpful during the course. It is important to understand what is the business type of the organization, and what are the compliance requirements that are imposed on them, or they have to keep abreast with, and most importantly, what is the history of data loss. If there is a history of data loss in the organization, people would be very careful, and confused, I would say, and they will be sensitive about everything. So make sure that you collect the information, not the sentiments, and based on statistics, make a better strategy. There should be a mechanism for feedbacks and sanity checks when creating a policy in the first place. And it should not be based on what others feel. It should be based on what the system can process, and what is actually the role of a data loss prevention solution. Choosing data channel is very important when it comes to creating the policy for the first time, and it is really important when we are in the testing or pilot deployment phase. Um, Maximum occurrence is one criteria. Based on that, we choose the data channel where we have to set up our first policy. Um, Also, it should be considered what policy can be easily detected. Like if email integration with the DLP solution is easy, let's go for it. If it is proxy, even better. Because in case of proxy, you might have more occurrence of communication outside the organization than email, and it will be easy to detect and fine tune our policies based on that. The communication process for users who are taking part into the test deployment, and also when users are blocked or stopped from accessing a resource outside the organization or sending the information outside the organization. It is very important that communication process is in place. Everyone knows what is happening for the testing of the policies. They are able to escalate the challenges they are facing during their work, and based on that, as the DLP consultant, you are supposed to improve the policies and stuff. Change management process. We will discuss change management process multiple times during this session. It is very important for integration. It is very important for the policy creation, how policies are fine tuned, how policies are managed overall, and how they are implemented to selected users or multiple users. So testing and improving, this is what happens in the first phase of data loss prevention solution deployment, and throughout the course. So first of all, only configure the policies that are for monitoring. Identify some test users and test departments. Make sure these users are aware that you are monitoring all the traffic. Make sure these users are performing their regular tasks, so you have all the insight of the business, and all the data that is going outside. There should be diversity among testers. It is not a good strategy to only limit testing to the most frequent users, or regular users. Um, just one example: IT users mostly are not very frequent people who are sending emails or data outside. However, sometimes they have to upload their logs or troubleshooting screenshots or stuff outside the organization to the vendors from where they are getting technical support. So if you only choose a set of users based on frequency of their using web or email, that might leave some gaps and some unforeseen issues in the future. Enforcement testers are the people who will be testing policies when DLP restrictions are implemented. Monitoring and enforcement users can be separate. Same user can be first helpful with the monitoring, and then they take part in the enforcement testing. However, it is a good practice to keep monitoring and enforcement testers available at the same time, and both have a different set of response rules or responses to the data breach attempt for the testing purposes, of course. Everyone knows what is the impact, and how monitoring and enforcement users will experience um, the data exfiltration process. Using multiple testing techniques is very important. Mm, One should not rely on OCR or fingerprinting or regex only. If there are multiple techniques, if there are multiple ways is available in your solution, try to incorporate all of them. Try to understand what is the business requirement. Especially keyword policies may be very noisy, and they might create trouble and create a lot of false positives. So make sure you have fingerprinting and OCR wherever available. However, it should be kept in mind that OCR and fingerprinting works best when user is connected to the internet. If user do not have any connectivity and they are sending data to the USB drive, OCR and fingerprinting will not work. Make sure that policy and technique has their limitations well documented, well written, and a policy is based or improved based on all the technical information we have available with us. In the end, it is very important to make sure that there is only one change at a time. Once you create a change, this change is implemented, properly tested, and then go for the other one. If we create so many changes at one time, there's a chance that we miss one or two from testing, or maybe the impact is not same when multiple changes are in place. So we have to isolate all the impacts, all the shortcomings, and all the end results of our changes. So policy management is a very complex field, I would say. Um, for many organizations, there's a question. I would not say it's a challenge. Challenge is only for the DLP administrators, but for the organizations, question is whether they should merge or isolate those policies. So merging policies is better when there is a lot of noise, or similar policy is configured for different departments. So when there is time to make a change, the DLP administrator has to make a change in multiple policies. And this leaves room for human errors or mistakes. So it is better to merge those policies into one. Now, merging the policies comes with a problem. Sometimes you are not able to understand what the keyword or phrase or regex entry is causing this issue. uh, who is the most impacted team, or group of that policy. And sometimes isolating policies, creating a lot of policies has an impact on the DLP solution. Although that really depends upon the product you are using. Some DLP solutions don't mind if you have 100 policies. On the other hand, some DLP solutions are designed in a way that they are processing policies one by one. They have set of priorities, so they provide a recommended value for setting up a number of policies. We should also keep in mind what are our business requirements and what kind of policies can be merged or isolated based on technical requirements and the business requirements. Second question is which technique works best. Like we discussed earlier, that sometimes OCR is not helpful, sometimes regex or keyword is creating too much trouble. So there's always a combination of different techniques. Most common is using regex with the keywords, and fingerprinting is usually used when data is unstructured. However, there is a repetition in pattern of data that is sent outside. Do we need integration, or should we send the data um, from DLP solution to another solution and with some certain set of instructions? Like, do I need to integrate my DLP solution mm, email traffic with a component provided by the DLP vendor, which is designed for the same purpose, or can I go with Microsoft Exchange and my DLP solution? That really depends upon how the change management process works in the organization, um, how efficient the solution is, and what impact is on the email traffic or web traffic for the solution you are integrating. Policy lifecycle really matters in the policy management. Um, Temporary policies should be properly labeled as temporary policies, and they should be reviewed more frequently. Rather, they should have an expiry date, so you can review and talk to the departments who asked in the first place to create those policies. Most of the time, the temporary policies are not based on some regulatory or compliance requirements. These policies are for keywords that are used into the business. For the policies that are permanently in use, DLP teams should look for new techniques and new ways to make sure that there are less false positives. Also, incorporating new techniques, if they are available with your vendor, it would be a good idea to use them. Please remember that extra set of security layers does not harm any organization as long as the business continuity is not disturbed. Change management process, like we discussed in the previous slide, is very important. If the change management process is very slow, it will impact the policy creation, policy improvement. So plan ahead, or try to raise the concern about change management with some statistics, of course, so there is improvement in the business process. Business continuity is very important. All we are doing for the DLP deployment is for the business continuity. So if business continuity is disturbed, maybe the DLP solution is failed, and then we try to look for another alternate solution or another vendor. So this is the DLP life cycle, which is more likely the PDCA cycle: plan, do, check, act. So plan the policy, test it out, deploy to the selected production users, expand it to multiple departments, and ultimately expand to the whole organization. That is the best strategy. Try to improve the policy based on information you get from the DLP console, based on the feedback you receive from the end users, and based on that feedback, plan for the next improvement in the policy. Similarly, if there is a new requirement from the business, plan it accordingly, test, deploy, and improve. So the cycle goes on. So DLP deployment is sometimes not a lengthy process. It takes a few weeks, maybe a couple of months. You just have to deploy the solution. If it is a cloud solution, you just need to make some configuration changes on your DNS or MX records, and the solution is there. However, if it is on-premises solution, there are certain implications, like how lengthy is the procurement process for the servers or the appliances you are going to buy and install in your data center, and then rerouting the traffic to the appliances from your exchange and proxy, or maybe endpoint devices. Hiring and restructuring, these are also some important factors in the timeline of a DLP solution deployment for the first time, or maybe for the upgrades. If your DLP solution is too old, or you need to change from one vendor to another, integration sometimes has its own challenges. However, if you know beforehand how the upcoming DLP product or release will integrate with the existing solution and what are the basic requirements, you can plan all of this on time. Change management process, again, it's an important factor, so I have mentioned it again. Uh, if there is leverage in the change management process, try to take that leverage. If there is no leverage, plan ahead. Then also there's a learning curve. If the DLP solution is new, if you are replacing your DLP solution or deploying a new one, that will definitely impact the timeline. So make sure that learning curve is part of the plan. DLP tools own evolution is also an important factor, because sometimes there are new tools in the market. We are trying to deploy those solutions, and yes, those solutions are not working as we were used to. Maybe there is a communication gap, something lost in the translation. So keep that in mind, that there will be some challenges and surprises from the solution we are going to deploy. And this is true for all the solutions, new and old. Education is also very important. Um, Users should be educated about what changes are going to happen, what will be the impact on them, and how to escalate and raise concerns, and how to get help. um, Management support or their expectations from a DLP solution is also a very challenging part, because management is usually only concerned or aware of a DLP solution's capabilities, and they are not aware of what is coming along in the package. So be very clear about what should be the expectations and what should be the limitations from different technical aspects of a DLP solution. Organization's maturity level is usually achieved in a year if organization is going on the right path. However, it can take up to 2 years or maybe more, depending on the interest of the organization, management, users, and the way a business is carried out. So in order to achieve a proper majority level, make sure that you have all the components, all the tools, all the guidelines in place. Everything is properly documented, well communicated, and initiated in a proper recommended manner. Take as much help from the DLP consultant or DLP vendor as possible, and make sure it's a smooth sale for end users, because end users are the one who will be providing feedback for the solution, and these are the people who will be helping in improving policies and the overall DLP program. So I guess we have discussed all important aspects um, of what should be required and what should be considered for our DLP program to succeed. Thanks for watching.